As with previous prohibitions, the weapons we are banning today are semi-automatic firearms with sustained rapid-fire capability. Experts have told us that they exceed safe civilian use.
That's just not true, and I haven't gone through the list myself. I'm going to hazard the guess that Rachel Bendayan doesn't know anything about firearms other than they're yucky. But you did hear her say, mission accomplished. And it's funny how that the timing was just perfect. The last dying days of the Trudeau regime is just when she just had enough time to do this last one errand. Now, the only problem is the actual gun criminals didn't get the memo. Like I say, there was a shootout in Scarborough the other day. There's shootings practically every day in Toronto. There is a sustained crime wave in this city and indeed across the country. But hey, those weapons of war were banned. I say again, I hope that no army goes to war with the little blinkers that were banned by Trudeau and Bendayan. And joining us now to talk about this is Rod Giltaca. He's the CEO of the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights, and he joins us now. Great to see you again, Rod.
Thank you, Ezra.
Now, I have not looked through the 179 makes and models, and to be honest, I don't know much more about firearms than Rachel Bendayan. The difference between us is that I'm not pretending that these are weapons of war, and that by making up another list, we're going to suddenly bring the gun crime rate down, because it's extremely rare, and I do know this, that it's extremely rare for a semi-automatic long arm to be used in a crime. It's typically illegal pistols that farmers and ranchers and sportsmen don't have anyways. This whole thing was false from the very beginning. Why don't you tell me the facts?
Well, when you say from the very beginning, we're talking about basically when the Trudeau Liberals took office. It's been just a big exercise in gaslighting and vote farming. But this latest list wasn't exactly what we expected. We expected more firearms to be on them. On this particular list, it was a lot of older firearms, all models of the M1 as well. And then there was a couple of modern firearms. There was a couple of shotguns, modern-looking shotguns that were magazine fed. They look aggressive, but they're limited to 5 rounds. All of the other criteria that you expect from non-restricted firearms, they were all prohibited too. And, interestingly enough, just talking specifically about those shotguns, these are Turkish-made shotguns. They are meant for a civilian market. These are not durable military-grade firearms to begin with. No clear-minding soldier would take them into battle anywhere. So I have to say, I am just really tired of the gaslighting. I'm tired of being a punching bag as a gun owner to the Liberals. Every time they're sinking in the polls or they want a little boost, they attack us and let criminals run wild. It's a status state of affairs, Ezra. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime.
Now, how about Mark Carney, the new 3-passport prime minister? Any moment now, he'll be elevated to that, which is quite a feat. Has he weighed in on firearms? Do we know where he stands, or is he really the same as Trudeau all the way down?
Well, unless we hear something to the contrary, we'll assume that he is the same. And then he started to gather the old Trudeau guard around him, some of the worst politicians in my opinion, in the history of the country, like Marco Mendicino, like a man without overstating, like he's got some issues. He doesn't understand what his role ever has been very clearly, and has done a lot of lying and gaslighting. It's just been an absolutely atrocious politician. He's now in, apparently, as well as David Lametti, just sort of the old worst suspects that didn't make it in Trudeau's cabinet, which you have to wonder, if you can't make it in Trudeau's cabinet, wow. But Carney is surrounding himself with these people. So I don't see this as encouraging for gun owners or any Canadians in general.
It's funny, the two names you mentioned, David Lametti was the justice minister who was installed after Jody Wilson-Raybould was fired. She was too ethical. Lametti was appointed for precisely that reason. He would do anything. And we know that because he invoked martial law illegally and unconstitutionally. That's according to the Federal Court of Canada. So you've got David Lametti, who doesn't care about civil liberties, violated the civil rights of Canadians according to the court. And you've got Marco Mendocino, who in that same martial law exercise, it was so dumb. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that as an insult, but his own staff didn't brief him on what was going on. Like, memos were circulated, updates were circulated. They didn't bother going to Mendocino to approve things, to read things, because he was such a low watt bulb. He wasn't the decider. He was, I don't know, demographically, they needed a Italian-Canadian person from North Toronto or something. I don't know, maybe that's why they put him in cabinet. But it was astonishing to me to learn that memos involving his department were regularly not sent to him. It wasn't that they missed him one time or another. They just didn't bother asking him because he was not the real decider. I think that says quite a lot about Mark Carney, that these are his two picks. You're right. If they were not good enough for Trudeau, but they're good enough for Carney, that tells you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're talking about Mendocino specifically, I was, I think a minute ago when I was talking about him, my mind was searching for a stronger word than incompetent, because he makes incompetence as a word seem like a compliment. But I didn't want to fall down the rabbit hole. But that's unsurprising that he wouldn't be charged with any actual responsibility or decision making. He was just put there. I can only speculate, obviously, right? But in my dealings with his department and the entire time that he was there, I would think that that they picked Marco. They're like, who's a throwaway, member of our caucus, who's not going to have a career as soon as he opens his mouth, like zero potential. Stick him in the seat, because Bill Blair's fleeing that portfolio of public safety and the buyback and all this. Stick Marco Mendocino, let him get set on fire, jettison him when he's, once he's taken all the heat, and then we'll start over. And I think that's what ended up happening. But yeah, it's startling that Carney, who is going to have to face an election sooner or later, would surround himself with these people. I guess it's business as usual over at the Liberal Party of Canada.
Yeah, or maybe he just doesn't have that big a Canadian network of his own. I mean, he spent so much time in New York City, in London. He has an Irish passport too. I think in other possibilities, he simply doesn't know a lot of Canadians. And I guess the quickest way to find some are just to look at Trudeau's discards. That's a theory, at least. Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message, because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.